UPL shines during this most recent homestand. More on that coming up. What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Sabres Edge podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Saucy Miss, and I'm joined by my co-host, Top Shelf Timmy Corks. How are you doing, Timmy?
You know what? It could be a little bit better. We had a bad loss on this past weekend, so not going to talk about that. Too well's there. But the one thing I was thinking while watching this intro, wouldn't it be kind of funny just to switch it up? And, we got this hard rock music playing right now. But maybe we should do like a kids theme song, and every time there's like a check, have like one of like those squeaky, like dog squeaky noise sounds every time there's a hit. I think it would be pretty funny. I mean, team soft, so it'd be funny just to do that for at least 1 week. So, Mike,
yeah,
there's a little idea for you.
I really do like that. Anyway, today is Tuesday, January 23rd. As we're speaking, we're about an hour and a half before the start of the Ducks versus Sabres game. So that's going to be a big focus of our talks today. In Buffalo right now, there is that proverbial rain cloud hanging overhead, as well as a real rain cloud. I was driving up here today, and it was terrible driving because of the weather here. So it's just all in all, not a great time to be in Buffalo right now. But
is it raining now up there?
Yeah.
So all the snow is melting, I guess, right?
Yeah, that'll honestly be a little nice. I was trying to get out of a garage bay earlier today, and it was not going well.
Okay.
But yeah the kind of just overall bleak. Not how you like to do it. But you know what? We got a Sabres game tonight, and hopefully that'll turn around the moods. Because guess what? We still have the Sabres.
That's right. We got 2 teams left. Sabres are one of them. Bandits are the other. But yeah, let's see if the Sabres take advantage of this while they're at it.
Let's hope. Someone who has been taking advantage of their opportunity recently is UPL. He had a shutout this week in one of his 2 games. And then in his other game, it wasn't great. He let in 2 goals on like 15 shots. So like not a 900 save percentage. But those were kind of problem. Like it's not really his fault that those went in. During the first game, which was a 3-0 win over Chicago, and that was the one that was delayed, so it ended up being on this Thursday. I think it was Dan Dunleavy talking about it with Rob, where he was saying, or maybe it was like the intermission, so maybe it was Marty and Duffer, but they were saying something to the effect of, during the Blackhawks game, by the way, they say we are giving up kind of some terrible breakaways and are lucky that it's not Connor Bedard or Taylor Hall who are taking these breakaways, and instead it's basically an AHL roster there in Chicago right now. And during the first period of that Lightning game, we played the same way where we were giving up those terrible chances, but instead it was people like Hagel receiving the puck or Stamkos or Kucherov. It was no longer AHL shooters who were getting those chances. So a terrible turnover by Casey Middlestat bites us, and that ends up in the back of the net. And a breakaway shorthanded ends up in the back of our net. And then we clean it up during the second 2 periods, and we only let like a few shots against us. Again, they only got 15 shots, but ultimately it was too much of a hill to climb out of, and we ended up losing our second game of the week to the Lightning with the same problems that we were encountering, but were covered up by Luukkonen getting a shutout against the Blackhawks. How did you feel about the way that we played during these past 2 games?
I just want to say something. I feel like Will Ferrell in the movie Old School. Do you know what that movie? Did you ever see that movie, Sam?
Old School? Unfortunately, I am unfamiliar with it.
Okay, I think you were probably an infant. It came out in 2003. But
I was 1 year old. So
remember what I said last week? I said we're streaking. We're streaking, guys. We're streaking. And in the movie, Will Ferrell tells everybody, we're streaking. We're going streaking. He's the only one that was going. I was the only one that was going streaking. Sabres left me behind. And I was like, what the heck? I was looking like a jerk out there. So, no. I at the end of the day, I really don't have too much to say about the Chicago game. You won the game. You should have won that game.
Yeah.
Like you said, AHL shooters. So there wasn't really much to take from that. And then to come from the Tampa Bay game, it wasn't really anything in the game that I could take away from it. It was a comment by Tage Thompson after the game that came kind of like bothered me, but also it's just like a no shit moment where at the end of the game, after the game, he goes, we got to stop taking shots from the perimeter. No shit, Sherlock. How long have you been saying this? I know that they know this for a while, that they shouldn't be taking shots from the perimeter and trying to get these goals that you're not going to have a low likelihood of scoring. Because you go back to the Chicago game, you got Zemgus Girgensons gets his goal as a tap-in goal, or not a tap-in goal, but a deflection goal. And then you get like an impossible Quinn goal, which is like he banks it off the goaltender's back and goes into the net. Dahlin, I think Dahlin might be the only person on the ice that can shoot it from a distance because all of his goals come from the point.
And that was scored by Mark-Edward Vlasic anyway. So
yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is you guys only score goals in front of the net. These perimeter goals are not going in. And the fact that you're telling the fans and everybody this now, and to like everyone that's been paying attention to the Sabres, because I'm assuming now that Sabres are going to be getting a lot more fans, are going to be watching the games now that the Bills are over with. But guys like you and I have been watching the Sabres. We have a general understanding how hockey works and where high percentage goal chances are happening. And they don't happen from the circles. It happens in front of the net, especially when you're a struggling team. And the fact that they know this and they still don't change their philosophy on scoring goals, it's infuriating at this point. And yeah, we have our defensive lapses. We give up a shorthanded goal again to the Lightning. And I mean, UPL, he's kind of looking like, what is his name? Lettinen. I forgot what his name is. Kerry Lettinen, who's the guy who's so bad on shootouts, and then he goes over to
Leonard,
yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
it looks like Leonard, where like these guys are coming down this, and it's just like an automatic goals for these guys every time they get a breakaway chance. Which, dude, you gotta be better on that. Let's go. Just be aggressive. I can't remember. Are goalies not allowed to come out of the crease and just chase down a puck? Do you know what the rule is on that?
I mean, you can. Will you're still subjected to like tripping penalties or, just being out of position. I don't think it's a very high percentage play to just like dive out there. You're putting yourself quite out of the net.
I mean, but Dominic Hasek made a career out of it, and I watched his highlights.
Dominic Hasek is an incredibly special player, and I'm not sure that we'll ever see anyone at the same level of talent.
No, that's a lot of flexibility that he has. If you watch his highlights, it's like, damn, like this guy.
Yeah,
he could have been a genius.
He was special. That I don't think we'll ever see again. But
yeah, essentially, I don't know. It is so, like you said, both games kind of played the same way. Sabres defense, Sabres trying to keep in the zone, Sabres power play, giving up shorthanded chances. It's just the same story over and over again. And there's not much. I mean, what else is there to say about this when it comes to like the team and the games and how they play? Do you have anything at all?
No, it's kind of just dull. Like that's why I think we're losing out on words to say. It's because you watch the games and you're like, this is so unspectacular, and sometimes we win them and sometimes we don't at about an even rate at this point. And it's just like, yeah, okay. I wish you were more fun. I wish you were better. I don't know what more to say. There's not a great way to articulate the fact that you guys are dull.
Yeah, but, you can't really change a
shooting from the perimeter, apparently. But
yeah, I mean, it's something that they recognize, and it's infuriating. It's like, all right, so when are you going to change your game? Yeah. Like when Dylan Cousins earlier in the year, oh, we're a soft team. Okay, be a little bit more aggressive.
Right.
We're going to still play the same way. So I don't know who's the voice of this team at all, who has the locker room. I don't know if really anybody does. I don't know. Was it also the Blackhawks game where Eric Johnson got hit too?
I believe it was.
Okay. See, this is what happens when these games all blend together and we can't remember like remarkable things.
It's been kind of a dull week. We had the games pushed back with the snow day.
Yeah.
I do believe that was the one where he got hit.
Okay. So it's kind of like a similar situation with Dahlin, but it was also like an awkward type of hit too, where he was turning away. Did you have any problems, or did you take any away from like the team's response to that hit at all, or what were your thoughts on that?
If I remember correctly, it was just like a little bit scrappy after the hit.
Yeah.
And that was kind of it. I think they were scrapping over Eric Johnson's body on the ground, which is always so scary to me whenever, like, yeah, I get it. Stand up for your teammate. Can you do it like 30 feet that way? Because currently, like, you're straddling the guy who just got concussed. Yeah. And if one of you falls over, like, now you're on that guy. So that's the only thing. I do appreciate that they're standing up for the guy and like trying to be like, hey, you can't do that to our guy. He's a leader on our team. You know, he's older. Like, they're looking out for him the same way he's looking out for them. Please don't step on him. Like, I worry about that so much. And so whenever those scraps break out, I'm like, you have the wherewithal to say, hey, you did something bad to my teammate. I'm going to go beat you up. But you don't have the wherewithal to be like, I am currently like putting my teammate in more danger actively. So that's nitpicky because, again, I do appreciate them standing up for their guy, but that always makes me so nervous and you see that a lot in the NHL where it's like, yeah, the guy's right there on the ground and you guys are fighting right next to him. Like, someone could be pushed into him.
Yeah, the one that stands out to me is the Dylan Larkin hit where he's laying on the ice and his teammate literally jumps over him to tackle the guy.
It's crazy.
Hit him. And I was just like, you have weapons on your feet. This guy is just laying down like this and his neck is exposed. I mean, we don't need any of this. Like you said, just maybe like have like a gentleman's agreement. Hey, let's pull this off to the side. And then
we're taking like 20 steps that way and we're going to fight this out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I only asked that question just because obviously you hear from different fans that the response wasn't strong enough. I know a lot of people were mentioning Victor Olofsson in his response. I mean,
Victor Olofsson's never going to be that guy. It's just that, like, the reality is that some of the guys on this team will never be that guy, or at least like you don't want them to be. Like if it's Tage Thompson, he's gotten into scraps this year. I don't want him to be the guy.
No, exactly. So, I mean, it's funny. You listen to these people, and I take away some things from there too. It's just like, yeah, you got to do a little bit of something. You don't need to get into a full-fledged fight, but also the guy, like we mentioned, it was like a weird hit. It was almost like that Okposo hit earlier in the year too, where it was like the guy was putting his weight on him. Then Eric Johnson decides to take like a last-minute turn, and the way that he turned and the hit was like perfect timing. It just happened to slam him into the boards.
It was a dirty hit, and also Eric Johnson looked like head faked and then turned, and I was like, that's never a good move if you're trying to protect yourself.
Yeah,
especially like at least try and get like 90 degrees to the board so that the hit is now like shoulder against you if you're gonna do something like that. But he can't, like, again, it's hard to like put the blame on the person getting hit. But I do think that there needs people need to be trained about just being aware of the situation you're putting yourself into.
Yeah.
But it still is a bad hit. The guy was hitting numbers the whole way through.
Yeah. And I think, with the guys that were out there, I think it almost, because I forgot, I didn't even know who hit him. It was I think
it was Khrushchev.
Yeah, that's right. He was on the ground too afterwards as well. So it looked like Victor Olofsson was trying to pull him up or pull him away or what was going on. I mean, it was just an all awkward situation to fight. I mean,
yeah.
So yeah, the response, I mean, yeah, do you want someone to go? Do you want a player out there that's going to go out there and maybe show something a little bit off? Sure. Was that guy out there on the ice? No. Is that guy on the team currently? Probably not. So
nah, I'm telling you, we're just waiting for for Krebs to turn into the power forward that we all know he can be.
Yeah, I mean, what is he, 5'10" or something?
He's definitely not one of the taller people in the team, but I think he's 6 feet.
No way.
I'm pretty sure he's you have to understand, our team is gargantuan between Owen Power, Rasmus Dahlin, Tage Thompson, Alex Tuck, Jordan Greenway. Everyone else on the ice just looks smaller than they actually are. But I'm telling you, some of those guys are pretty tall. Peyton Krebs,
he may want to be
5'11".
Yeah, he may want to be 6 feet. He probably tells people he's 6 feet, but he's 5'11".
Yeah,
shout out to Jake Padre. He does that all the time.
All boys do is be 5'11" and lie.
So yeah, I guess really those are the two major takeaways. I mean, UPL shut out in the Chicago game. That was his back-to-back shutouts, right? I think.
Yeah, that was one of his 2 back-to-backs because he had the Sharks in the previous week that we already talked about.
Yeah,
not great teams to get your back-to-back shutouts against, but I think either way, that's an impressive feat.
It's ego boosting. I mean, something to hang your hat on because, heck, we're having a bad season right now. You got to hang your hat on something. So no, good for UPL. And besides that, I don't know. I mean, like we mentioned, the other 2 games really unremarkable. The fact that we're losing to Jonas Johansson and that too. I mean,
hey, he put up a 9.67 against us.
I feel like every backup goaltender this year is putting a 9.67 save.
Every backup goaltender puts up a 9.67, and every 4th line player gets a hat trick. That's just how it goes.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just one of those seasons, I guess. I don't even know what to say.
Yeah.
I'm going through the stages of grief. My stages of grief for Sabre season started back in November. I'm currently in my Bills stages of grief, but right. I went through already I forgot. I already went through the anger phase. My anger phase was in December when I had my rants, and now I'm just kind of coming to okay, this happened. This is
the season we're watching.
Yeah,
this is the season we got. Not the season we asked for, but the season we got.
So yeah, I don't know. Really, did you have anything to take away from this?
No, I think we covered the 2 games that happened this week. We do have some people talking in chat. So cheers, NFL playoffs. Thanks for coming back to the stream. And then Mike says, this city is cursed. Guys, our sports teams love breaking our hearts. And boy, do they ever.
Yeah, I mean, the Sabres have been a slow burn, so I mean,
yeah, I've had time to adjust to the fact that it's not our season. It's whatever, guys.
Yeah,
2 months ago I was like, this is terrible, but now I'm like,
yeah. What? Now we're just looking forward to the trade deadline and what's going to happen in the offseason.
Speaking of the trade deadline,
there you go.
There's a conversation going on right now surrounding Casey Middlestat, where apparently he was talking to Lance Lysowski. I'm sorry if I butchered that name. And he was informed that Casey Middlestat's name has kind of shown up in trade rumors, to which he responded with, that's kind of unfortunate. If possible, I'd love to spend my time here in Buffalo. I haven't been talked to by Kevin Adams about a new contract as of yet. And there's a lot of controversy around this statement because a lot of people are saying, why the heck has Kevin not talked to Casey about a contract extension? Obviously there's some if we're getting rid of him, if we're trading him anyway, I guess it doesn't really matter. Some people believe that you should be having those conversations anyway to know what he's worth, to be able to trade him for what he's worth, or like what he isn't to you, I guess.
Yeah.
Where are you with all of this? And do you think it's important at this point in time that conversations are happening with Casey Middlestat about contracts?
So I understand where people are coming from, where you want to have the contract negotiations to see where he thinks his value is at, or where his agent thinks his value is at, or whatever. He's currently leading the team with 39 points, 2 above Dahlin, 6 above Skinner. Where is he at in terms like goals wise? Sorry. He's tied 5th with 12 goals. So, I mean, the Sabres already have a lot of guys signed long-term. And right now, we're regretting a few of those contracts. Let's be honest. It's not looking hot right now. Now, guys like Cousins, you still give him the benefit of doubt where it's just like, okay, maybe he'll turn around next year. Same with Tage. Maybe he'll turn it around. Like, we know what Tage is and what he can score.
Honestly, when Tage has been healthy, he's been pretty good this year. I don't really worry too much about that one because when he's not wearing a wrist wrap or out games, like he's good. He's been playing well. I don't really have complaints. Obviously, he's never going to be like the defensive powerhouse that great two-way forwards and like great top line centers in the game are, but he serves his purpose and he scores and puts up points. And I think for that $7 million price tag, that's fair.
Yeah, and we've gotten a good deal with him. So you have him locked up, and I'm not saying him being in bad. I mean, like Dylan Cousins, he's season.
Yeah.
No, Matthias Samuelsson, he's locked up to $4 million. I mean, not a lot, but it's a contract that we're kind of looking at, and this guy's always injured, and then sometimes you're questioning his defensive abilities in some games. He's not consistent. Dahlin, he's your franchise player. He's locked up in Owen Power. I mean, we're going to have to give him time to develop. Problem with the Sabres is, and we've said this multiple times, how many centers do you have on this team? How many centers do you have in your system when it comes to your farm system? How many skilled players do you have that are sitting down there? Like we're thinking right now, who are the 2 guys that are sitting down there in the AHL that we're like, they're going to have to be called up at least by next year? Like, who are the 2 guys, Sam?
Isak and Yuri Kulik.
Exactly. So where are those guys going to go when you have Casey Middlestat signed to a long-term deal and essentially he's going to be a third-line center? And you're looking at the rest of the team, and you still have guys like Quinn and Peterka who are still locked up and going to be RFAs. So there's your second line with Dylan Cousins. Your top line you're locked up with because you got Tuck at a pretty good contract. You got Thompson, and then you got Skinner, who no one's going to take that contract. So you got your top 2 lines. Your third line right now, you got Casey Middlestat, Benson, and Greenway. Is he done? Does he have another year on his contract?
I believe this is the last year of his contract.
Okay.
I would be looking to re-sign like kind of 2 or 3 years with him. Like, honestly, that seems fair to me.
Yeah, and you'll probably get him at a better price that we're going to get Casey Middlestat at. So, and you still got Benson. So then you got your fourth line, and you're not going to put those 2 guys on your fourth line. That's just detrimental to the team. So at this point, the Sabres kind of recognized, or Kevin Adams has recognized who his core is going to be. And I don't think Casey Middlestat fits in there. And he's just not going to fit in there in the future. So I'm fine with letting him go. Trading him for what? I don't know. Probably get a fourth line player or something. I don't know what his value is in the open market, to be totally honest with you, because he doesn't have a strong track record. He's having a good season this year. He had a good end of the season last year, but besides that, we were calling him a bust. So in the beginning of the season, I was calling him Casey Middlestat, and I was like, we got to lock this guy up long term. But look at this team right now. They're not successful. They tried to bring back the team from last year for this year to make the playoffs. It didn't work out. We can't be just doing the same thing over and over again expecting the same result is the definition of insanity. So I'm totally fine with trading Casey Middlestat. I'm totally fine with trading a bunch of other guys on this team right now because it's not a playoff team and there needs to be changes, whether it be free agents from outside the system or bringing up guys who are developing in the system. Because at this point, the team is overflowing on skill and not enough guys who are going to be your third, fourth line guys. Do you have any thoughts at all?
Well, to address one of the points, the centers. We have too many centers. They're all centers. All our prospects are centers. Like, yes, we are pretty flexible with what we or like who we use as a center or not. We see that with like, Greenway was playing center for a while. The people who take the face off, like Tage Thompson takes the face off. Skinner will take the face off when he's the line. When Middlestat's on that line, he'll take the face offs. Gergensons, Okposo, Krebs, all of those guys take face offs. What is a center for our team, I feel, is a little weird and debatable. I think when you bring up Yuri Kulik, he's not going to be a center right away anyway. His defensive game needs a bunch of work. I've said it for a while now that I think Dylan Cousins, realistically in the NHL, should be a winger, even just like play style wise. He's very like line drive guy, and I think that is more suited to the outside as you like rush down the wing, get into corners quickly. I don't know that we have someone who would fill that void that Middlestat, because Middlestat's actually probably our best pure center because he can play defense in the middle of the ice, unlike a lot like Tage Thompson. He's better in the middle of the ice when he's doing offense, but his like middle of the ice defense is bad unless he's on the penalty kill, in which case it's good just because he's long and takes up a lot of space. But like when he's told that you need to get like body to body against someone and like push them off pucks, he's one of the last guys I want doing that. Whereas Casey Middlestat has put that into his game and he can really win puck battles. He can edge people out of areas. He can like up against the boards. He'll win battles. And that's something that I think that we're kind of missing on this team. Along with that, he's also one of the best just 5-on-5 players in the NHL over the last 2 years. And for a team that's not getting special teams results, we really are lacking on the power play. For a team that's not getting special teams results, our 5-on-5 is the best thing we got going for us. And honestly, it's not even bad this year. If you look at the stats throughout the whole year, like our 5-on-5, our expected goals is like pretty good. I think it's even better than it was last year. And we're just getting sunk so hard by special teams. Why take our best 5-on-5 asset now and be like, we don't need that anymore? That's useless. We got other things coming up. So I just like right now, if possible, I would love to be able to retain Casey. I don't think that you'd give him the 7 or 8 years that we're giving other people. If you could get him at 4 years for something reasonable, you could give him 4 years, $7 million. Honestly, for me, that's worth it. But I understand that there's going to be that like discussion about like where do you fit the other people in. I think that the way that the team is going and the way that we're drafting, it's going to be like 4 skilled lines. You're going to see, I believe it was 06-07, you had like Vanek on the 4th line. That was the guy centering your 4th line, if I'm not mistaken. You had a bunch of young kids up and they were kind of holding it down at the end. But if that's where we are and we're running 4 lines, and if you can make kind of your grindy line, Benson, Greenway, and Middlestat, give them those kind of wearing down the opponent minutes, and they actually are a threat to score, unlike some of the other guys, unlike Gergensons and Okposo and Krebs at the moment. That's fine. You can do, they serve that purpose. They're good on the forecheck. All 3 of those guys. They're good at hounding pucks the way that you want a 4th line to do it, and they're way better than the traditional 4th line player. So I think it would be more you have Middlestat as the 4th line, but they're getting more minutes than what your 3rd line or maybe even your 2nd line would be, because you're playing them kind of all situations to wear down the opponent and to score. Like,
I don't totally agree with that. Just
That's
because that, and it's just because that's from the way that I've known hockey is your fourth line. I mean, you can't play a team with all skill. It just doesn't work out in hockey. I mean, it works out in the World Juniors. It works out in Olympic hockey. It doesn't work out in the NHL at the end of the day. You need to have some guys that are going to be defensive minded, that aren't fully skilled. They're going to be power forward type of players. And I look, and just referencing the 06-07 team, one of the focal points of that team was that, because you had guys like Jochen Hesch, Mike Greer, Paul Gostad. These guys weren't scorers. They were guys that were bodies, power forwards. They didn't bring any skill. They were just guys that, help, keep lines in neutral. Really, your top line when you're looking at it, and most of your goals that came from that 06-07 team was between Drury, Briere, and Feneganov were really your top goal scorers on that team and really your offense. And I just don't think having a team full of skill is going to be sustainable in the NHL, really, even when it comes to like the playoffs. Once you become a playoff team, as cliche as it is to say, playoff hockey is a different type of game. And that's where it becomes more grindier. It becomes more, you're going to be getting goals aren't going to be perimeter shiny goals. Like Tage Thompson's not going to be carrying the puck into the zone and scoring, end-to-end goals. That doesn't exist in the playoffs. You're going to have to get those in front of the net goals and those type of players on that team. Problem is that team doesn't have this. The other problem with this team is you have, and this is going back to when you're saying we have a lot of guys who can play different positions. The problem is, and this was talked about in a news article, and it was talked about from Kevin Adams and John Granato, is the best that they get out of these players, especially Tage Thompson and Dylan Cousins, is center, and Peyton Krebs. They've got tried out on the wings, and it just doesn't work for these guys. They are unfortunately stuck at center. I know that they can jump out and play wing during the game, but their best game comes when they're at center and when they play that position. And that's where this team is kind of hamstrung. And it's sad to say that. Like, I love Casey Middlestat. I think he's a very good player. Do I want him on the team long term? Of course I do. I just think this team is kind of pigeonholed himself at a point where you're just like, I don't know. Do they take on another? I'm assuming Casey Middlestat's not going to want another bridge deal because he's finishing up on a bridge deal right now. He's going to want something long term. Are the Sabres going to want to do that? And that's the issue. And it's just like, I don't know. And I can see this is why they haven't had that conversation with him, just because I don't even know if the Sabres know. The Sabres are going to probably want to sit at the trade deadline and hear what they can get for this guy. Because if it's something that's worth pretty good value to them, they'll probably give him up, to be totally honest with you. And that's pretty much it. I don't know. And that's me and going back to like the grinding part of it, that's me, back early 2000s, early 2010s hockey. I know hockey's changed a little bit now, but that's my mindset still going back there. I still have that old school brain.
I think that the lack of physicality from our team and the lack of like people able to grind it out like that, it really comes down to just like an age thing. I think you really do see like guys will build that into their games. Dahlin was kind of branded as like a bullyable guy in the NHL during his first few years. He is one of the most gritty and just like willing to kind of throw his body around guys in the league in the back end right now. Like, along with all the skill that comes with Rasmus Dahlin, you see someone like Peyton Krebs, who literally was like just like pass only guy during his junior career. Like, he was not a scrappy guy. He had to etch out his way in the NHL, and it was on a fourth line. Like, people are able to figure that out for themselves, and it's something that everyone like has the ability to put into their game, unless you're Victor Olofsson. And so, like, I think that you can build, like, I think it's easier to like have a team become scrappier together than it is to teach skill to a group of players. That's why I don't mind keeping around more skilled players and then seeing if we can put some more fight into them, the way that it got into Rasmus Dahlin, the way that it got into Peyton Krebs' game. Just add some grittiness on the whole rather than bringing in individuals who are gritty to kind of put tape over the holes in the sinking ship.
Yeah. My only concern is, and you point out Peyton Krebs, is he does that to stay on an NHL roster, and it's a detriment to his skill.
I don't think being gritty is a detriment to his skill. I think playing with Zemgus Girgensson and Kyle Okposo for the last year and a half is really what's kind of set him back and kind of made him a truly fourth line player. He has never had an opportunity in the NHL to play with actually good offensive weapons. And until that happens, I do feel like you're kind of putting him into a box and telling him to just stay put for the time being. And other than that, it's what's he supposed to do?
No, that's true. I mean, it is the guys that surround you.
Especially like he's a passer. When he's at his best, he's dissecting like lanes and finding people in seams. He's a passer. He's not a shooter. So it's not something like he doesn't look to create for himself. And if the people that he's feeding off of aren't great offensive weapons, it's not going to work out for a playmaker.
No, that's true. I mean, and that's the thing. And it's not just, it's a matter of, it has to be a team philosophy that they're all going to want to do that. And where is that team philosophy going to come from, and how is that change going to happen? Is it going to come from the coach? Is it going to come from the captain of the team, of next year's team? Because not this year's team. I mean, it has to be, there has to be a conscious effort for the whole entire team to realize that there has to be something added to this. There has to be some grit and grind to this team in order to take the next step. And there's a lot of questions for that. And that's going to have to be an off-season question. So, I mean, yeah. You know, I always find it weird that a reporter brings up to a player that he hears his name in trade conversations. I mean, I feel like a player would get an idea from their agent that, like, hey, I've heard the GM's talking type of thing. So
yeah, I do not know what the context is, so I'm not trying to throw Lance under any buses but yeah. I just know that discussion came out of a conversation with Lance and Casey.
He's an RFA at the end of the year too, right, Casey?
I believe so. I do not have
that's why I keep on reading.
Friendly pull up.
Yeah. Well, that's why every article that I've read has said he's an RFA too. So you're technically not losing him at the end of the year, and you can probably get him on a team friendly deal.
Right. Because he's an RFA, you can have those conversations later, right?
Yeah.
Hold on, I can pull it up. He is an RFA at the end of this year.
Okay.
So you can you can have that conversation later. You can say, hey, Casey, we're going to put off talking to you about signing because we have, we got 4 people coming up as UFAs.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I hope those UFAs are gone by the trade deadline, to be totally honest with you. Besides probably Okposo, but
yeah, I mean, actually 5 if you include Erik Johnson.
Yeah, because you have Olofsson, Girgensons, Johnson, and who's the other one?
Robinson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's forgettable. that's fair.
So yeah, I mean, I don't think Robinson's gonna be going anywhere. He might be going down to the Amherst, or he just might be filling in for the 4th line after Girgenson's gone. But yeah, at the end of the day, the unrestricted free agent guys, those are the guys I expect to be gone. I don't know if there any of those guys you think are worth keeping it around.
No, the question is, I don't just know what you can get out of them. Erik Johnson, I feel like you could probably get like a 3rd round pick, maybe a 2nd if you talk sweet enough. But maybe you can get something for Girgensson. He has value in the NHL. I just don't know. Like, he is probably a good 4th line player. Yeah. I don't know where you send him, like who's looking for Zemgus Girgensson. I honestly would love to see him have the opportunity to make the playoffs because he's been in the perpetual rebuild that's Buffalo his whole career.
Isn't that crazy to think he was an all-star? He was the Sabres all-star his rookie year, I think, or his second year. I forgot what year it was.
Yeah, that's because he was playing on the first line. He got like 20 goals, and they had to take someone from our team.
Yeah.
I feel like at the very least, that's a testament to the fact that we're not where we were earlier in the rebuild. And also, like, we're doing it with a lot of the young players.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like, it's, our best player isn't Zemgus Girgensson. That feels good. That feels good.
I mean, yeah, I'm trying to think of that team.
That had to have been like were we tanking for Eichel that year? I don't know.
I think no, it was because what year was that? Because it was his draft year. He was down in the AHL his rookie year. Then he came up into the NHL. So year 2, he's in his NHL.
He was in the All-Star game in 2015. So it would have been the 2015 draft, which is that's Jack's draft, right?
Yeah, it is, because that's why he chose 15. So okay, yeah.
So he was the best player on the tank team. So
I'm trying to think. So how many years was Ted Nolan here?
I don't know. I thought
was he here 2 years or 1 year?
I thought it was 2.
Because the Reinhardt year they drafted, it was second overall. So they had 2 tank years.
Yeah, we had 2 tank years in a row.
Okay.
That year, the Zemgus one, we won 23 games and lost 51. And then we had 8 overtime losses. That is a terrible team.
It was a terrible team, but it was a terrible team on purpose. And the only thing that made that year worthwhile was thinking that it was a guarantee that we would get McDavid with the worst record. And we ended up with like goal. So that was the only thing that made that year exciting. Now it's just like a perpetual, like, all right, we're bad again.
Well, you don't want Macklin Celebrini?
I mean, I wouldn't have any issues against having Macklin Celebrini.
Listen, I only want Macklin Celebrini if we're drafting 10th and just happen to jump up.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I don't want the version of the world where we get Macklin Celebrini because we're at the very basement below like the Sharks or whatever. Yeah. That would be so painful. But
so yeah, we have a comment from Mike. So let me go there. If the Sabres. Oh, go ahead.
You can go. You can go on.
All right.
You called out the comment.
If the Sabres miss playoffs, which most likely they will, is Granato gone? Also, simple yes or no question for Timmy. Are you a Fire McDermott train? So Sam, answer the first question.
Okay. This is my official timeline. Granato has 20 games into the next season. After 20 games, if it's going like, we'll just have to gauge from there. After 20 games of the next season, if people haven't picked up their game again, if we don't see Dylan Cousins playing the way that we know that he could, if we don't see any improvement from Power, if we don't see any of these key guys take jumps that we were hoping for, Granato's going to be gone. That's how I see it.
Okay. Do you think there's any changes that they have to make in the offseason at all? If they keep Granato, what does he have to do to maintain his job into at least the 20 games next year?
I mean, for the last 3 months, I've been saying we need to fire at least some assistant. Something needs to change. Whoever's running the power play, I guess now it's Granato. He decided to finally put his stamp on it. But we need someone who can coordinate our special teams better, because our 5-on-5 is fine, and then our special teams are absolutely atrocious. So,
yeah, I'm on the fire. I said this. I mean, if this, I have to stick to what I said at the beginning of this year. If the Sabres didn't make the playoffs, Granato's gone. Yeah, I mean, there has to be a different message that comes into this team. I think a different viewpoint. So I honestly, and like I said, I don't think Granato is going to be the coach that ever is going to bring this team over the hump. And his hump might be the playoffs. He might be able to do that for another team, maybe just not this team. I don't think I would never say. I mean, I'm not going to say that the goal is for the Stanley Cup, because I don't think this team is not ready for the Stanley Cup at all within the next 2 to 3 years. But I think the team needs a fresh take when it comes to coaching wise, overall, a different philosophy. What type of coach? I couldn't tell you. You have Patrick Waugh coming into the Islanders, and he's preaching a defensive team philosophy, which kind of blows my mind because that's the Islanders in general, just boring defensive hockey. I haven't watched too much Islanders hockey this year. If that's changed, then wow. But
they are incredibly carried by their loser points right now. They have 11 overtime losses. And otherwise, the record is not very good. They just happen to be collecting points while losing.
Okay. So they need some goal scorers. So calls for Victor Olofsson.
I'd gladly talk. Yeah. That'd be great.
So yeah, I don't know. I would like to see a change. That's all I'm going to say for Granato. And then when it comes to for McDermott and the Bills, no. Mike, if you wanted to have me on one of the Nickel City Mafia shows for the Bills, I'll talk more into it. But I'm going to say no. And I have some other reasons and things that McDermott should have to do this offseason for me to have more confidence next year. And that's all I'm going to say on that. It's a Sabre show, Mike. Come on.
I'll give you my one answer, yes. And then I'll just let it simmer that we are disagreeing with each other without actually talking about it. Exactly. Anyway, more about Sabres coaching. Well, we were talking about the Islanders. I feel like, and because Granato's perpetually on the hot seat with the fans, I feel like it's important to ask this. Lane Lambert, yes or no, for the Sabres?
No.
All right, Granato, you survive another day.
No. A part of me doesn't want another retread coach. And that's crazy to say that.
Okay, but we had this conversation. I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago.
Something
about the coaching staff not having experience, not ever being in the playoffs. But now we don't want a retry coach. He made the playoffs. He served under Barry Trotz when Barry Trotz was taking them deep in the playoffs. And then when he was head coach last year, they made the playoffs.
I don't know what I want anymore, Sam.
I want it to just work magically.
I mean, a lot of people are naming Bruce Boudreau. I don't want Bruce Boudreau to be this coach. I never liked Bruce Boudreau. Then we got Lane Lambert.
Then who's your solution? Is it Jay Woodcroft? Is it whoever was kicked out of Minnesota? That's the reason I don't see us pulling the trigger anytime soon. It's just I don't know who. If Vegas fires their coach, absolutely, I would pull the trigger on Don immediately.
What about? Oh shoot, I do have a coach in mind.
Okay,
I can't remember his name, but he's the one
not helpful.
So he was coaching last year.
Okay, where was he coaching?
Calgary.
Sutter?
Yes. I know.
Okay. No offense, but that might be the worst idea. If you were pulling any coach's name out of the hat, that would have been the last one I think I would have pulled for.
No way.
Yes, absolutely.
No.
That guy was getting the talent in Calgary to chronically underperform, and it was just a well-known fact that everyone hated that guy. He has such a bad reputation among his players.
The last guy in the hat, though, want me to go Dan Baalsma?
Dan Baalsma?
Who was the coach after Lindy Ruff, too? That other guy who was just super boring.
I do not know, but
you're
in
my heart of hearts. In my heart of hearts, if every coach was available, everyone knows what coach I always pick. It just, and you don't like him. You actually hate him, I think. And it's Torts. It's Torts.
You're okay. I'm Tortorella. You went for Daryl Sutter. I bet you like Babcock too.
No. No, I'm not a Babcock fan. I think Babcock's just he's such an a-hole. I mean, come on.
But Tortorella's not.
But Tortorella, from what I've listened to on a bunch of podcasts and listening to Thomas Vanek loved Tortorella. He loved playing for Torts. Thomas Vanek had a terrible relationship with Lindy Ruff, but he loved Tortorella. I mean, this guy he has a bad reputation because he calls out players in the press and he holds his players to standards publicly, and people don't like that. But what I've heard from players is they love him. They love playing for him because behind in the locker room, he just wants the best for you. He wants you to play hard. And I think he does. And I really do see that from him. Yeah, he says some outlandish crap to the press, which I get. It's annoying. It's weird. But I think if you can have a coach that will call out players who are playing bad and need to play to a standard that he knows they can play with, maybe that can get something out of him a little bit more. Because I need someone who's a little bit more aggressive than the pacifist that we have had coach right now. I need a little bit of chaos.
You want to bring back some of the grit, some of the old time hockey.
I want some chaos on the team. That's what I want.
I actually don't mind that idea. I don't think I should not be Sutter. I would so much rather have Tortorella. A thing about Tortorella, actually, he's polarizing in the locker room. There are players who do not like him, and those players get traded. I think we saw it last year with Kevin Hayes, was it? Is he still?
Kevin Hayes left the team, but then when Kevin Hayes was approached about Cutter Gauthier and what his comments to him, and he said, I've never said anything bad about Tortorella.
Yeah, but they had it they liked each other on a personal level as the story goes, but they had philosophical differences that they could not overcome. And as a result, he gets traded again, polarizing in a way. And some people love him. Some people will not. I do think one interesting thing about Tortorella is that he's learning with the game. The last time that he had coached, he was before the Flyers. His brand of hockey was very old school, very check heavy. Yeah. It was a very check heavy system. Big guys throwing big hits, shots from the point with guys in front kind of system. That's just how he played. Now he's willing to accept that the game is changing and he needs to change with it. And he's talked about that before. He's talked about the use of statistics, which I like for him. Mm-hmm. I like in general in the game because that's how it's moving. And I do appreciate that about Tortorella. I think he's one of probably the top half head coaches in the league right now. So I actually do like Tortorella as much as I like kind of joking about him. I don't think he'd be great with the super young team that we have, and that's the only reason I don't think I would want him on this team. But given different circumstances, I don't think I'd mind Tortorella, and it's certainly more interesting to have Tortorella as your head coach than a lot of the other people in the league. It'll never be dull the way it is now.
So there are coaches that don't have experience that I really do want to at least give a try.
Okay.
Even though I've made a comment before, I want someone that has NHL experience, but these are former NHL players.
Okay.
Problem is they're also former Buffalo Sabres. And I don't want the relationship to be burn a bridge with a former Sabre either, especially Sabres that I loved.
Love Housley.
But yeah. But the two guys are Jay McKee or Michael Pekka. And I think those guys have gone from the bottom tier ranks. Pekka was coaching at the Junior Sabres. I think McKee was coaching at Junior Sabres. And McKee's led a bunch of successful hockey teams in the OHL or just the CHL in general. And McKee's Pekka's worked from the Junior Sabres to the AHL. And now he's getting a lot of credit on the New York Rangers right now. And he kind of has I'm sure he has a lot of connections in the NHL too, where he can get good assistant coaches to help him out. And having a guy like that who was both those guys top play, they were respected players in their positions in the NHL. And having it with a young team, he can maybe help guide them in that way to be NHL players. And I think that would help out a lot more than just having Granato and a bunch of guys who are just fourth line AHL players as assistant coaches. So that's my other thought. Those are the other two. I would say those two are on the top of my list over what I just said before. Like I said, if it's a veteran coach, I just want chaos. I don't want no tummy sticks coaches out there.
Right.
Very polarizing. My responses.
Okay. Yeah. I at least respect it. At least you have a reason for the things that you're saying. It's I appreciate that. Again, never would touch Suter with a 80-foot pole. He can stay on the West Coast. Don't need him here. It'd be great if he came to the East Coast, just not our team. If he could coach Detroit.
Oh, that's never gonna happen. Detroit is loving themselves right now. They won the bottom to top lottery this year between them, the Ottawa Senators, and the Sabres. So
yeah.
But what if it's they signed Daryl Sutter as a threat? Look, this guy would be coaching you. You hate hockey right now, and then they bring in it's like a good cop, bad cop thing. They bring in the bad cop, and then they bring in the good cop. After.
I thought you were saying we just have him on the payroll, so at any moment we could be we're cutting Granato.
Yeah, that too. That might work.
just keep him away from the team, but have him on the payroll, so you can be all right, Granato, sort your stuff out because we have this guy here.
Or have him looming over in the arena in the stands,
he
watching
watches
over
creepily.
Yeah,
great, awesome.
Has to wear a dark hood and everything. See, guys, you gotta start winning. Look who's up in the stands right now watching you.
It's literal Palpatine just
yeah, exactly.
All right, you know what? I buy into that, but would I actually, if Don still doesn't pick it up, I would still pick up someone else before putting Sutter actually in position of a coach. But
that's agreeable. Maybe I was thinking too much of the LA King days with Daryl Sutter. I mean, he had a dynasty going on that team.
I think his heydays passed him, but
yeah, that's true. A lot of old guys.
Yeah.
A lot of old guys coaching the NHL is insane. Lindy, Sutter, whoever the dude is that's coaching the Ottawa Senators right now, they grab him out of a nursing home. All right, let's move on to the next topic.
Anyway. Well, that was nursing home comments. Great.
I'm available tomorrow night, yes.
Anyway, we have a game in 24 minutes, and that game is against the Anaheim Ducks. So I figured we could do some just light previewing of what's to come. So the Anaheim Ducks are currently terrible. They are second last in their division with only the Sharks behind them. They're 15-30-1, and I was watching the NHL puts out little save packages, highlight packages every week, and it's the top 10 saves of the week. And it was either this week or last week where 3 or 4 of their top 10 saves of the week were John Gibson saves. So I was like, oh, they must be doing pretty well. They got John Gibson playing on his head. As it turns out, John Gibson is probably making great saves because his team is putting him in terrible positions. In the last 5 games, they've let in 21 goals. That's a goals against average of 4.2, which is terrible. They're 2-7-1 in their last 10 games, and they've lost their last 3. So the goaltending is not saving them the way I thought that it might have because of those clip packages. And they are struggling, to say the least. It is kind of a free fall for them. In terms of goaltending, I think this year we got them beat. I was looking at some goalie stats. Do you know who the top quality starts percentage leader is? And I'll just let you know in case anyone here doesn't really know what that stat is. Quality starts percentage is basically just a measurement of what percentage of game starts you have that are above average. where you have average or above average, like goal save above expected for your games started, not games that you're put in as a backup.
Well, you just went over John Gibson, so I'm going to assume it's going to be his backup goaltender then, actually.
It is not Dostal. In fact, it is Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
Oh, okay.
He is the current quality starts leader with 20 or more starts. Do you know, like he's in pretty elite company with this. So it's like there are some stats you can cherry pick, but the other people up there with him are Linus Ullmark, Ersson, who was playing out of his mind for a while with Philadelphia, I believe it was, Connor Hellebuck, and Jeremy Swayman. So that's kind of an elite. I mean, Ersson is not necessarily elite, and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen you can debate, very up for debate. But the other three are bona fide elite goaltenders in the NHL, and he is seeing himself top that list. So he might have something with Luukkonen.
And you look at the players in front of the other goaltenders. I mean, you look at the Bruins' defensive philosophy.
Yeah.
Winnipeg Jets are having an amazing season. So, I mean, for Ullmark or for UPL to be up that high, I mean, that's amazing. That's a testament to him alone. It's not to the team. He doesn't have team defense. It's him. I mean, he's playing strong, and stick taps to him. I mean, glad to have that. But to go over the Anaheim Ducks just real quick, and I think we talked about this at the beginning of the season too. What type of team do the Anaheim Ducks, what do they want to be this year? Did they want to be a tanking team, or did they want to be like a legit team? Because they have the weirdest combination of players on this team that really I just don't understand. I mean, you bring in Alex Killorn, who's going to be your third, fourth liner guy, but he's a veteran guy.
Right.
But you have good players, and like Leo Carlson was their high draft pick, and he's having a pretty good year. McTavish, I mean, he doesn't get a lot of love, but he's having a decent season. But then you have Ryan Strome there. I mean, okay, a middling centerman. Troy Terry, who I guess Troy Terry is like their best player.
Troy Terry, in my opinion, and I've only watched a few of the games they played. In my opinion, Troy Terry is by far their best player.
Yeah. And then you have Zegras, he's just a polarizing player, but he's a decent player.
He's chronically underperforming this year. So I don't know if something happened, but you as an Anaheim fan would have expected way more out of Zegras than you're getting this year.
Mm-hmm. But then you go to like their defense. You have Cam Fowler, who's been there, I don't know, forever. Then you sign Racco Gudis, which is like, okay, like, all right. This guy had a pretty good Stanley Cup playoff run last year, and he's known as a physical defenseman, but all right, like, okay, this team's trying to get better. I mean, you bring in Lyubushkin too, bring in more, but and then you keep John Gibson, and it's just like, you're the second worst team in your division. You're a terrible team, yet you brought in all these free agents this past year. I don't understand this team at all and what their goal is as a franchise.
It could be very Chicago-esque, where you're just trying to surround like your star young players with kind of veteran guys who maybe aren't going to win you anything this year, kind of intentionally, but also are going to be good role models and help the younger guys along.
I guess so. I kind of guess that's what the role like Killorn is on that team, right?
I feel like Alex Killorn could have gone somewhere where he won. Like he has a track record of doing it. So,
I mean, I wanted him to come to the Sabres this offseason. I would have thrown pretty money at him. I would have overpaid a guy. That's just me. I mean, but hey.
I don't think that's a bad idea, especially in hindsight. But
yeah. But yeah, that's a very interesting team. I mean, I expect us to win, even though it's a West Coast trip.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
there are few fun connections between the Sabres and the Anaheim Ducks. The first one that I'd like to discuss. Do you know the? I think it's 4 players out of this most recent draft that are playing in the NHL right now. There's only 4 in the whole league.
Oh, it's Leo Carlsson, right?
Yeah.
Benson, Bedard, and Fantilli.
Yep. So when Leo Carlsson was drafted, I think he was drafted 2nd overall, and it was kind of a big. People were like, "Why did you not get Fantilli?" So obviously Anaheim thinks that they saw something there, but they the 1, 2, and 3rd over 1st, 2nd, and 3rd overall players from the NHL draft all made it directly into the NHL, and the only other person outside of like that chain was Zach Benson from our team. So we're about to see 2 of the youngest players in the NHL go head to head against each other. We didn't get that against Chicago this time around because obviously Bedard was hurt. But it's going to kind of be fun to see the new draft class on Showcase, see some of the guys from that. Another thing is that their point production is incredibly similar. Leo Carlsson has 8 goals and 10 assists, whereas Zach Benson has 4 goals and 10 assists, a little bit less on the goal scoring side, but points-wise, kind of similar. Zach Benson has played a few more games, so that doesn't exactly work in his favor, but he was also drafted 10 positions lower. So,
and he plays on the 3rd. He's a 3rd liner. I'm assuming Carlson.
I don't know what Carlson plays on, unfortunately.
I'm assuming he has to be a 1st or 2nd liner on that.
His time on ice is roughly like 20 minutes per game. So
that's a lot. That's
at least, and in his last 4 games, it was roughly 20 minutes per game. So he's getting more time than Benson.
Okay.
It is probably a worse team. So
I hope so. I mean, this is.
I'll revise that statement. It's definitely a worse team that he's playing on. So
yeah,
there's too many factors to say to compare them. So why not just watch them tonight as they face each other head to head? But another fun little thing that we got going on is that Tage Thompson's dad, along with Ryan Johnson's dad, are on the coaching staff for the Anaheim Ducks. This is the first time that both of them will be playing against their parents' team. So that's a little. Maybe we'll see a big game from either Ryan Johnson or Tage Thompson. Tage Thompson hasn't had too many explosive games this year the way that he had last year. We saw a game where he put up 5 goals. Ryan Johnson's still looking for his first game of the year. So maybe these are some players that we can look for tonight have big games against their parents' teams. So
yeah. I never knew Ryan Johnson's dad was a hockey coach, to be totally honest with you. I knew Tage's dad was.
Right. When there was conversations about Ryan Johnson not signing with us, people thought that his dad might have been in his ear telling him to come to Anaheim, like wait out the because he could have stayed another year in college or whatever and just gone to free agency. Obviously, that's not what ended up happening, and we like no one substantiated those rumors. It was just one of those things. It's like, hey, his dad works in Anaheim. Maybe there's a reason that he's not signing. But obviously, it worked out for us, and we have a good player out of that transaction.
I don't know if I would, if I was an NHL player, I don't know if I would want to play under my dad. I mean,
it would probably be a little weird.
Yeah, because it's not like, squirts, midgets, peewee, or whatever. Or bantam hockey where you can play under your dad. Like, this is the NHL. It's a whole different beast. Like, there's expectations. Right. Didn't Patrick Waugh, when he coached the Avalanche, didn't his son play for him?
I didn't know he had a son that played. So
I think the Sabres drafted him. He lasted a couple of years, and then he went somewhere else. But yeah, he had both his son. His one son was actually a goaltender. The other son was like a 3rd, 4th liner, scrappy guy. That's the guy the Sabres drafted.
All right.
And I think he played for Waugh in juniors too, which is just so all around. I don't know. I would not want to play for Patrick Waugh, to be totally honest with you. He's like an intense guy, of what I've heard when it comes to like juniors hockeys. So
yeah, I don't know that I'd want to have him as my coach either, but Good luck, Islanders.
Oh, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that about covers it for things to talk about with the Anaheim Ducks. There's some fun tidbits. Other than the Anaheim game, which now starts in 10 minutes, we got 3 more games coming up this week for the Buffalo Sabres. Those games being the Kings on that's tomorrow, so I assume we'll probably see Devin Levi that game. The Sharks again, which, bless up because I love seeing the Sharks. And then the Stars on Tuesday. So the game that's tomorrow as well is a 10:30 game. So that's a gross start time. 10 is already kind of tough. It's kind of fun that we get to do the pregame for it.
Yeah.
10:30 is pretty bad. And then we also have, because the next week, Tuesday, we have the Stars game, so we'll get to cast that.
Okay. Oh, I don't know if I want to cast that.
Yeah. How are the Stars doing right now? That's
27, 13, and 6 is the record. I don't know how they are doing overall.
They're doing pretty well. They got 60 points so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're third in their division, but they're like solidly in a playoff spot. Even though they're third in their division. They just have the Avalanche and Jets. The next closest is the Predators at 51 points. So they got a fair lead. They're doing pretty well for themselves.
Yeah.
What's up, Jake? Nice to see you. Patrick Waugh is a psycho.
Yes, I do remember when he played. I remember his press conference when he wanted to get traded from the Montreal Canadiens after one game where he was pulled. And that's how he ended up in the Avalanche.
An iconic moment in sports history, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think back in the day that we had Waugh, Brodeur, and Hasek all playing at the same time, and maybe
the golden age for goalies is gone. I don't think it'll ever be that exciting goalies.
Yeah, I mean, you had Ed Belfour, who was pretty good. Cujo, Curtis Joseph. I'm trying to think. Oh, my favorite. I have a lot of good hockey names that I like. Like you have that Pascal Dupuis is a great name. Claude Giroux is a great hockey name. And then you had Nikolai Khabibulin, the Bulin Wall. Just love him. Just based on the name and his nickname. The Bulin Wall.
I've never heard of that one, but that is fantastic.
The Bulin Wall? Oh my God.
I'll need to look up the highlights.
He was just a weird guy, great goaltender. He won it with the Lightning. He's got his cup. He's just amazing. All right, Jake, stop spamming the chat. So.
Nah, he brought up the goaltending legend Rick DiPietro.
I know. Why did he bring up Rick DiPietro? What the heck?
Because he's up there in the upper echelon. You got Dominic Hasek, Patrick Roy, Martin Brodeur, Rick DiPietro. He's probably somewhere in there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for contracts. Is he still getting paid?
I think they're not paying him anymore, but it would be funny if they were.
Yeah. And then Olaf Kolzing, Marty Turco. I mean, all right. We get it, Jake. Jake doesn't know anything about hockey, so he's just looking at hockey reference right now and just
he's just Googling goalies that played in.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? If you're gonna look up any position, goalies are great. Love goalies.
Appreciate you being in the chat, Jake. Jake, thank you. After I just tripped you.
Anyway, wrapping things up before the actual game coverage the game starts. Do you have 3 stars from this week?
It was another one where it was just pulling out teeth for getting stars. I mean, my first star was UPL. I'm going to bring UPL again.
He got a shutout. I mean,
he got a shutout. Really, this is where the standard is the standard, and the standard is the shutout right now.
That's kind of a tough standard to put on him, but I like it. Some competition for him.
I mean, on the team, there's not much competition when it comes to stars.
Yeah.
My second star, actually, I'm going to give Ryan Johnson a star just because he had those 2 points in the Blackhawks games, 2 assists. We're still waiting on that goal, but he had a very solid game. Should be always in the lineup. All right, we're just going to make that clear. Free Jokiharju, free Ryan Johnson.
Absolutely.
Those two guys need to be playing. And my third star, I'm actually going to go back to what you did. I don't think it was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
Last week where I picked the Czechoslovakia hockey fans.
Because they were still there.
They were still there. They got an interview on Sabres Live Overtime.
And they met their hero. Dominic Hasek was in town.
I assume that's why they were there. But that is awesome. Love to see fans coming in from all over the world. Mm. And having the opportunity to meet their hero is just awesome. I wish I had checked out the Dominic Hasek thing. I was like aware of it happening after it already happened. I was like, dang it. That's so cool that he was there.
Yeah. But those are my 3 stars. I'm going to give them to there.
You know, I like that because they are awesome. But I'm going to copy you. Obviously, you got the shutout. So, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, you get the shout. The second game, you only let in 2 goals. You gave them a fighting chance. Obviously, your save percentage wasn't great, but the goals that you gave up, I mean, that first goal, that was impossible. That was truly an impossible shot to stop. And I rarely use the word impossible when talking about this because, you know, you can like sometimes out of desperation. No, that was like turned over and within like 2 tape passes, it was then rifled into the corner. Like you weren't going to do anything to stop that. The second one, shorthanded breakaway. It's a breakaway. You're expected to stop 60% of those.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Now, my third star or my second star, I think I mentioned Ryan Johnson had the 2 assists. He looks good. Hopefully it'll inspire some energy for tonight playing against his dad. And my third star with 1 game played this week and 1 goal scored, I'm going to give it to Dylan Cousins. I think he looked good in the game back. I don't know how many opportunities I'm going to have to really give him praise this season because it hasn't looked great for him. But
tires up.
He did what we were talking about, got in front of the net, and he just kind of scored a greasy one. That's what we've been needing from this team, and he was there. So yeah,
I agree with those. I like all of those. I mean, the Dylan Cousins goal may have been their only goal after the Lightning game, but during the Lightning game, but it was a greasy goal. It wasn't a perimeter goal, like Tate Thompson said.
Standing there in the slot, didn't get too much on it, but because he was there, he got the shot off, and that's what counts. Mm-hmm. Before we go, we do have a couple of questions from the chat. We got, you guys see that the Sabres are actually like in the top half for regulation wins. I did not see that. I'd seen earlier in the seasons that we were above the Leafs, which I always find funny. I don't know if that's still true. I imagine it's probably not. We do get a lot of our wins in regulation. We haven't been to overtime much. And as we were talking about with the Islanders, their record is really boosted by having 11 overtime wins. They're 20-15 or overtime losses. They're 20-15 and 11. So they have 20 wins. We have 20 wins. They have 7 more points than us. So it's not fair, but it is what it is.
Those are just stats. I mean, I don't care. The team doesn't look good. I'm going to give it the eye test and just say, that's great and all. Team doesn't look exciting.
some Sean McDermott rumors. Would you be okay with Bill Belichick coming to the Bills? I personally would not. And also, that's a football question. Is there a podcast tomorrow? Football questions will be live tomorrow. But we can give you our one answer or one word answers. Are you yes or no for Bill Belichick maybe being a Bills coach?
No. Bill Belichick is like almost the same age as my dad in his 70s. I mean, no, we're good. We're good. We don't need old coaches.
Jake doesn't seem to think that Sean's going anywhere.
What's going on here?
We're now the football podcast.
Jake, save it for tomorrow. Jesus, get off my show.
You know what though? Love the interaction. Love seeing you guys come on and talk.
They're just having their own conversation in our show. They're talking Bills football on a Sabres podcast. We can't get them out of our. I mean, the season's over, guys.
Yeah. It is now 10 o'clock. The Sabres game is just about to start. What would you like to see in this upcoming week and the next 3 or 4 games that we have?
Tage Thompson. You said you guys need to get in there and get dirty goals. Stop shooting for the perimeter. If you're going to talk the talk, let's walk the walk, baby. I mean, get in there, get those gritty goals. Stop saying things and not doing them. You know, Dylan Cousins called the whole team soft earlier in the year. You guys didn't really show up. I mean, let's just say, if you're going to say something, do it. And that's all I'm going to put it at this point. I mean, what do I expect out of this team when it comes to the record? I mean, you're going out west. You're facing Anaheim. You're facing San Jose. Beat those teams. LA Kings, I mean, put up a good fight. Maybe bring them to overtime. And then the Dallas game, I mean, we're just going to be having a whole lot of fun on Tuesday. I'm not even going to be disappointed. I'm just going to say, boys and girls, strap in. That's going to be a tough game right there.
For me, all I want to see is us to continue winning more games than we've lost. In the last 10 games, we're 6-4. That's not bad. That's 600 point percentage. That makes the playoffs every year. Just keep doing that. I don't need too much more. I just want to see you guys playing well the way that you have the last few weeks. Win more games than you lose. That's it.
Nice.
Anyway, that has been us at the Bills podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe for more Bills content. We are here every Tuesday, and next week we will be live during a game. If you want more content from us or just want to chat with us more, we do have a Discord server. I'm sure it's somewhere in the description. There's other podcasts on this channel, so if you do want to watch more football content, I think they're going live tomorrow. I don't know what time, 9 p.m. So, yeah, stick around. We'll see you next week. Go Sabres.
Thanks for coming on the show. You guys can talk Bills all you want, but we're glad we're having you on here too.